boys and girls. We're about to read a story in math today that is called Mouse Count. The title of the story is Mouse Count. And in math this week, we're going to be learning about how to count, because there are ways that you can count, and some ways when you count, you won't get the right answer, but I'm going to show you the way that you can count that you will always get the right or the correct answer. We're going to be reading a story about some mice, and the mice are going to be playing, and then they're going to get really tired and fall asleep, and a snake is going to come along. Now I want you to think for just a minute, what do you think this snake would be looking for? If the snake was looking for mice, why would the snake want mice? So I want you to think about that, and I'm going to lay the book right here on the table so that you can see my mice and my book. But before we start the story, I want you to go to your resource kit, and I want you to take out your counters. Now yours are all the same color. I want you to get out your counters because we're going to need these to learn how to count today. And I want you to go to the kitchen and get a cup, because we're going to be using a counting jar in math today. So your cup can be kind of like your counting jar. So I want you to go right now, get your cup and get your counters out of your resource kit. And when you have all of that ready, then you can start the video again and be ready to read Mouse Count. So go right now, pause the video, go right now, get your counters and your cup, and come back ready to read Mouse Count. All right, here we go. One fine day, some mice played in the meadow. They were careful to watch for snakes. Now they were watching for snakes because they were afraid the snake might want to eat them. That's what snakes like to eat. But when the mice got sleepy, they forgot about snakes, and they all took naps. Look at these mice. They have fallen asleep, and these others are getting very, very tired. While they slept, a hungry snake went looking for some dinner. On his way, he found a big, nice jar. This is our counting jar that the snake found. I will fill this jar with dinner, he said. It wasn't long before he found 3 mice, little, warm and tasty and fast asleep. First I will count them, and then I will eat them up, said the snake. Mouse count. And when we count, we're going to do the same thing that we did when we read Icy Colors. When we made sure our fingers were touching the words and our mouth and our finger matched, we're going to make sure our mouth and our fingers match when we count. Now the snake found 3 mice who were asleep. So we're going to pick up 3 mice and we're going to count them and put them into the jar. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3. Now I want you to do the same thing with your cup and your counters. I want you to get your cup and your counters, and I want you to pretend that this is your counting jar, and we're going to pretend that these are your mice, okay? And I want you to count 3 counters and put them in your cup. Now we have to pick them up when they're in our hand, and we put them in when we count. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3. All right, you do that for me right this minute. All right, now we have 3 mice in our jar. You have 3 counters in your cup. He dropped them into the jar, but he was very hungry, and 3 mice were not enough. Soon he found 4 more mice, little, warm and tasty, fast asleep, and he counted them. Now I have 3 mice in my jar. The snake has found 4 more. So when I start to count the next 4 mice, I'm going to start with the number 4 because there are 3 in here. And 4 comes next, so I'm going to say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you're going to get your cup and you're going to look inside and see that you have 3 counters in your cup. And so your next counter is going to be number 4. This is number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we have 7 mice in our jar, 7 counters in our cup. But the snake was very, very hungry, and 7 mice were not enough. At last, he found 3 more mice, little, warm and tasty, fast asleep, and he counted them. Now, before we can count these last 3 mice, I want you to think about how many mice are in our jar. We have 7 mice in our jar. So when we count the next one, the next number after 7 is number 8. So this is going to be mouse number 8. So I'm going to say 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I want you to take your cup and your counters. You have 7 counters in your cup. This is number 8, 9, 10. All right, very good job. Now, 10 mice are enough. The snake thinks he has enough mice. He has 10, and that is enough. Now, I'm going to eat you up, little warm and tasty, said the snake. Well, the mice are awake now. And they're going to talk to the snake. Wait, said one of the mice. This jar isn't full yet, and it's not. We have plenty of room for some more mice. And look at that big mouse over there. Now, there's not really a big mouse over there, but they're trying to trick the snake. Well, the snake was very greedy, and he hurried off to get the big mouse. Well, now the mice are left alone. And while he was gone, the mice had a great idea about how to get out of the jar. And they rocked and rocked and rocked the jar one way and another way and another way until it fell over. And out come the mice. And when the mice come out, we're going to count backwards. We're going to start with the number 10, and we're going to count backwards. So let's see if you can help me do that. Let's say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the little mice uncounted themselves and they ran home. The snake reached the big mouse, but look at what it was. It wasn't really a big mouse. It was only a cold, hard rock. And when he got back, the jar was empty. If the jar is empty, how many mice are in the jar? There is a number that means none. There is a number that means we have no mice left in the jar, and that number is 0. There were no mice left because they all got out of the jar and ran home. So now we have 0 mice. So I want you now to take your cup and let's count backwards and let's put your counters back into your cup. We know that there are 10 in here. So the first one that we take out is going to be the number 10. So we're going to say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, when you're counting, did you see how slow I had to count when I was putting them back? I couldn't count very fast because it took me just a minute to reach in and grab my counter. So if your mouth is counting slow, your fingers are counting slow. If your fingers are moving slow, your mouth is moving slow because they have to go together. Now let me show you one more thing that is very helpful when you are counting. Watch what I'm going to do with my mice. I'm going to take my mice like this and I'm just going to drop them down in a pile. And I wonder how many mice are there. Now we know there are already 10 mice because we've counted them. But if we didn't know, that's kind of hard to count because they're a mess. They're just in a big old group. So if I want to count something that's in a group, I'm going to move them into a line. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to move the mice and put them in a line. As I move them, I'm going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now they're much easier to count. If things are in a line, I can count them easier. Watch me. My mouth and finger matches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I touch and count. All right, boys and girls, so you can practice some touching and counting by taking your counters and maybe pouring them out on the table like this. And you can practice moving them into a line so that they are easier to count. Things are much easier to count when they are in a line. So you put them in a line and touch while you count. All right, I want you to practice counting your counters today as soon as the video is over. Pour some of them out on the table and count them for your mom or dad. All right, boys and girls, great job on mouse count. See you next time.